Local productions on QTV are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Uncommon Sense. I'm Junia Doan, and thank you for joining us. My guest today is Kevin Kendrick. After 25 years of service for the FBI, Kevin is now Vice President of Global Security for the Dow Corning Corporation and a strong leader in our community. So welcome, Kevin.
Thank you, Junia.
I think you have a very big job. How has the sense of security and global security changed over the years?
Well, it's interesting that you ask that, because there certainly has been a metamorphosis of the types of risk that we encounter in security and in law enforcement, and a change also in the strategies that we employ to negate those risks. For instance, 25 years ago, the biggest concern to a private company might be someone breaking into a facility, a physical theft kind of scenario. And today it's probably more along the lines of cyber intrusions. Companies throughout the country and throughout the world, in fact, are concerned about losing information and intellectual property through cyber activity.
So cybersecurity falls under your job description, or is that a whole other division?
It's another part of Dow Corning, but because of the gravity of the offense and the variety of the way that cyber issues can manifest themselves, we become very involved with our IT security team in helping to provide mitigation for those risks. And also, I think another part is educating your employees about the extent of the risk and the damage that can ensue as a result of it.
I think I always heard in World War II they used to say something like loose lips sink ships.
Yes.
And then later, long before the internet, but I believe the Dow people who travel, the salesmen, the managers, were basically encouraged when they meet each other not to discuss business.
Oh. That is, you are absolutely right, and that is a message that we continue to drive with our employees today, because even though we worry about cyber attacks and people hacking into our systems and things of that nature, most information is lost through inadvertent disclosure. It's lost through those casual conversations at the airport and in bars. You don't really know who you're talking to, and people are very clever at getting you to believe that they're someone that they hope you think that they are.
How
we call that
do
social engineering.
How does that work?
Well, it's really not that difficult to accomplish. If you happen to know that a person works for a particular company,
yes,
and me as a competitor, I will go into your LinkedIn account, for example, learn a few facts about you, and then perhaps strike up a conversation with you at an airport or at a bar or at a convention.
And just claim you were from a different company or the same company.
Or just ask you questions about your company to see how willing you are to provide answers to general questions. Sometimes I may even ask you a question that I know the answer to, or I'll say something that I know is incorrect, because I want to see if you are willing to correct me. We call that elicitation, and that's a technique that's employed actually.
Solicitation?
Elicitation.
Elicitation.
Yes, yes.
Oh.
But it's a very common technique, and it's a very effective technique at gauging the willingness of a person to provide information.
So that comes under like commercial spying, would you say? Or
Yes.
what is that called?
Well, it's actually, it can be a variety of things. The term in general is called social engineering. It can be accomplished in person. It can be accomplished telephonically. It can be accomplished by way of emails. Now we call that an email in the cyber world. We call that type of social engineering phishing. When you get an email that appears to be from someone that claims to know you or you know them and they're looking for information, when in fact they have ulterior motives that can range from just wanting to hack into your system to actually getting you to divulge intellectual property.
I just had one that said, email I didn't open, that said, Frank Popoff, all in caps, awards you, and I thought, how did they, connect the two? But you have to avoid it even when you're a private citizen.
Oh, especially when you're a private citizen. It's a risk that presents itself not only to companies, but to us as individuals, because our proprietary information is our identities and access to our savings accounts and our financial accounts and all of that. So we have to be very, very careful whenever you're operating in an online environment.
When I kind of learned that cultures are different in this respect was in Florida, when I was looking for a photographer to take a picture of my late husband, myself, and our then toddler daughter. And I did hire him. He was from East Germany. And he said that there is no security in the United States for basically spying on commercial things. He said his principal trade is taking pictures of CEOs at different companies. So they will make the appointment with him, and he will go to the company's office, and the person who says, hello, why are you here? And he says, I'm here to take a picture of, and she will say, usually she, well, go left, and then you go right, and then you go left. He said, on the way to his office, there's just no telling what I could learn or pick up or do.
Absolutely. That is so true. One of the things that we do to provide mitigation against that risk at Dow Corning, for example, is our camera phones. Our phones all have cameras, right?
Yes.
Well, we ask the question about all of our visitors when they come to the corporate center, whether or not they have a camera phone in their possession. And if they do, then we ask them if we can put a piece of tape over the camera portion, because we have strict rules about taking pictures on our campus. And it's at all of our sites for that matter. It's generally forbidden to take pictures unless you're an employee and you're doing it for
This
a specific
photographer
reason.
might say, well, that might be naive because the man might have 3 phones.
And he might, but he's probably going to be escorted as well, so we're not going to give someone unfettered access
to that.
Yes.
Do you worry about other things like chemicals, biology, nuclear, any of the things that could be
Absolutely.
harmful?
Yes. The threat of terrorism, especially at our manufacturing sites, chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear weapons, certainly are concerns for us, especially as we see components of radical organizations kind of urging and imploring some of their adherents to go out and commit these individual attacks.
Yes.
So yeah, it definitely presents a concern for us. So we're constantly communicating with the intelligence community to learn about different risks and different threats that may present themselves. One of the things about terrorist attacks that we've seen in general is that there's usually what we call pre-operational surveillance before an attack occurs. Someone just doesn't decide on the spur of the moment that they're going to do something. There's a little bit of planning that takes place. So,
now, did your FBI training prepare you for this?
yes, very much so. And of course the FBI changed on September the 12th, 2001.
Yes.
We changed from being an organization that focused primarily on criminal behavior to more one that focused on intelligence collection and intelligence sharing. And we've done that, in fact. So our posture has changed. Our whole outlook on going from a criminal organization into an intelligence gathering one has changed. And I think it's been beneficial to the country at large.
Do you work with teenagers as code breakers? I was reading this article or two that they're
Yes.
inviting these, young teenage hackers to
Oh.
come in and check their system or break their system or,
Yes.
make it better through weaknesses they personally can't find. Gates said that's how he started.
Absolutely, and I think you're seeing more of that certainly in the private sector, where there's I think a real desire to go out and get the people who know what they're doing.
Yes.
To show you what your vulnerabilities are, because IT security is always a catch-up game. You're always planning or providing mitigation against something that has already happened.
Nasty. What drew you to a career with the FBI?
Well, it's interesting. I was on the Detroit Police Department before joining the FBI, and I just thought it would give me a different opportunity to advance my interest in law enforcement. And so I applied for the FBI in 1979, 1980, and I was hired in 1981 and spent 25 years there. And
In Detroit?
No, we lived all over the country, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we moved many times over the course of my career in the FBI, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I think my favorite time was probably the last 2 years. I was the special agent in charge of our office in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, isn't that the research triangle area?
Yes, we actually have responsibility for the RTP. Yes, that's absolutely right.
Oh, so you've had some technical
Yes.
exposure
Yes.
before you came here, but how would you bring yourself up to speed, as they say, for things in Bangkok or China or Africa or, Turkey?
Yes, and that's a great point. All of my career in the FBI was spent domestically here in the United States. And so coming to the private sector and coming to a global company like Dow Corning did present some obstacles at first, but I learned very quickly that even though I transitioned from an organization in the FBI that really gave me a lot of resources in terms of investigative personnel,
Yes.
I transitioned to one that had a much smaller staff and a much more global footprint.
Yes.
But I learned very quickly that you have to rely on your employees to assist you in determining what the risks to the company are. And Dow Corning has a lot of very smart employees who have been really incredibly helpful in helping me to understand what some of the risks to the company are. So traveling around to our different offices and our different sites around the world gave me not only an appreciation for some of the security risk there, but also some of the cultural considerations.
Are you good at reading people?
I think so. I think I'm okay at it. I'm not always right.
Well, what I'm thinking of is we were talking earlier about phishing, basically.
Yes.
That people can learn a little about you, the company, and, and I'm thinking, well, if you were in some of these foreign places, and maybe they work for Dow, maybe they were a subcontractor, maybe they were someone, can you use what rings true as an American, evaluating an American, as an American sort of getting a gist, not a gist, an impression and a knowledge, a non-verbal knowledge of someone from another culture?
Yes, and it's important that you contextualize what you're seeking. I mean, it's really important. One of the things that I always do before I visit another country is to do my research on some of the cultural considerations in that country, because certain gestures
Right.
that I might interpret one way could mean something completely different in another country. So there's lots of information out there about cultural considerations. There's a wonderful book called Kiss, Bow, or Shake Hands that I kind of rely on as a go-to source for cultural considerations. Then I look at security issues that are impacting a particular country before I travel as well.
If I go abroad, say Europe, I can't say self-regulate, but that's kind of what I mean. I take up less space. I don't gesticulate like I'm with you. I stay in my space and I lower my voice.
Yes.
Because that's respectful to their the way they live,
Absolutely.
right?
And it's important to do that because each of us, I think, is an ambassador of sorts.
Yes,
So
I agree.
when you do travel to different cultures, I think, different countries and experience different cultures, I think it's appropriate to embrace those cultures.
Now, were your parents in law enforcement?
No, no. My mother actually was, she cleaned homes for a number of years. And then at the age
Good
of...
profession.
Well,
At the
it was a good
time.
profession at the time, but she decided that wasn't enough for her. So at the age of 50, my mom returned to school and got her degree at the age of 54 and got her master's at 56 and began teaching at the age of 57. So she taught for 20 years.
And what did she teach?
She taught English in the middle schools of Detroit. And she taught for 20 years, but she's my hero because she decided to change her course, her educational trajectory, by going back to school.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, yeah. So she's
Was
really...
your father for that?
Oh, he was completely for it. He was all for it. My father worked in a factory in Hamtramck and worked there for 30 years. But yeah, he was
Who was
totally
the
in favor.
disciplinarian?
Believe it or not, my mother was.
Oh, yeah? How'd she do that?
Oh, she did it very well. She
Oh, yeah?
ran,
How very well?
She ran the house pretty much like a drill sergeant.
Like a what?
Like a drill sergeant.
A drill sergeant?
Yes. Yes, we had order. Everyone had a job to do. I'm one of 5 children, and everyone had their jobs to do in our household. And my mom made sure that we did it, whether it was cutting the grass or doing the dishes or taking the garbage out or just cleaning, dusting, whatever. Everyone had a job. But your first job for my mom was making sure you did well in school. That was job one for all of us.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
And how did she enforce that?
By constantly looking at your homework assignments, by going to the schools. My mom was doing PTA before PTA was really popular. She
Yeah.
was really all about making sure that.
So
all
she
of
would
her
help you
children-
with your lessons in a sense.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's a lot with 5 children.
Yes, it is, and especially when you're working all
And when
day.
you're working.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was a wonderful person.
And if there was anyone who was occasionally mouthy, what would happen?
It just didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
My mother was from, both my mom and dad were from Columbus, Georgia, and they were definitely very, very strict. Children were to be seen and not heard, and we didn't live in a democracy.
Yes. No. I think order is good.
Yes, we had lots of order.
But you know what it teaches? It teaches self-control.
It does. I completely agree.
That's why I kind of like McDonald's as first entry jobs,
Yes.
because not everyone has that, which I consider a major plus, self-control to stay on the job till it's finished, whether or not you have cramps or a headache or
That's
don't
right.
feel like it or anything like that. You know, you need the self-control and you need to know it's your job and you have to do it to the end.
Absolutely. I think the other part of that too, though, working at McDonald's, is to inculcate this whole concept of being a part of a team.
Yes.
Because you are a part of a team.
Yes.
And it's not about you as an individual. It's about a group of people working toward a collective end that's greater than any of the individuals. So I think it offers a lot of value.
It was popular when my daughter was young, in like 5th grade, to put them in teams.
Yes.
And then they had a project they had to do. Well, she learned very quickly. There was one girl who didn't really want to participate, so the rest of the team picked up the slack and did it. And when they got the good grade, she was really resentful because she
Absolutely.
knew that one of them, just cruise control through. And I said, that's the way you don't want to be, baby.
That's right. That's exactly right. It's interesting too, though. I've seen teams actually apply peer pressure to those
Oh,
people
yeah? How
who
so?
aren't. Well, if you're not pulling your weight as a team, I've seen this happen many times, where the team itself will kind of extricate itself from that individual or ostracize that individual to the point of that individual having to find another team. Because no one likes someone who's just along for a free ride.
Oh, interesting. Now, do
Yes.
you have children?
Yes, 2 children. My daughter is married and lives in New Jersey. My son is married and lives in Charlotte, North Carolina.
And did you raise them like your mother raised them? You?
I think we were a little bit less authoritarian, and I think we were strict, but not nearly as strict as my parents were.
You were the disciplinarian, or your wife?
Both.
Both.
Yes.
I think that's better.
Yes, I think it's definitely better, and that way kids don't get to pick.
Yeah, back and forth.
Exactly. They don't get to play that game.
Yeah.
So.
Well, because we have so many children who are either neglected, abused,
Oh my goodness,
or
yes.
undisciplined.
Yes.
I consider that a form of abuse.
Yes.
You don't teach children how, what do I want to be? To be polite, to be respectful, to follow through, to be a person of your word, to be caring, although that, slides around a little bit.
Yes.
But to really put yourself into it in a positive way. And I think we have failed. It's not just them. You have to get after them a lot.
Completely agree. I completely agree.
So it's wonderful. We were talking earlier about the mentoring program.
Yes.
Now, what are you involved in there?
Well, I do a little bit of mentoring just individually to different students and different individuals who are interested in law enforcement careers. But I speak to children in high schools and individually all the time about the need to begin preparing yourself.
Yes.
I've talked to so many kids who are interested in becoming FBI agents, and they think that by going to a school that offers a criminal justice program that will prepare them. My counsel to them is no disrespect to the criminal justice programs of the world, but you need to look beyond that. You need to prepare yourself for life beyond law enforcement. So get the IT skills, get the political science skills, get the accounting skills. Those will still enable you to become an FBI agent, but it will give you some marketable skills after you leave the profession. If you just major in criminal justice, you're really kind of pigeonholing yourself.
Yes.
And you don't want to do that. You want to prepare for your entire future, not just the job you want right now.
Boy, that is so helpful. You would think the schools would be telling them
Yes.
that, but
Yes.
I don't recall ever hearing anything like
Yes.
that. So perhaps they do, and perhaps they don't yet. But to have you go in and say it, that gets passed around, word of mouth. Maybe I
hope
ought to
so.
take an accounting course. I don't like math, but maybe I should do it anyway.
I hope so. I really do, because that truly is what our children need. We need to prepare for the future, and we need to develop language skills as well. This world is becoming such an increasingly smaller place and an increasingly competitive place. But we see people being hired all over the world for different jobs. And our children need to understand that English is very important, but we need to stress the importance of other languages as well.
I take it beyond that. I'm like a little old-fashioned that way. I think people should tell the truth.
Oh,
They
my
should,
goodness, yes.
They should.
Yes.
You say you're going to do it, you do it,
Yes.
right? And you do it with a good attitude because you said you do it. You're a person you can
Absolutely.
count on. A few of those what I call character, be the person that people can trust.
Absolutely.
Not the people who, fly by night.
I
You don't want to
completely
be
agree.
like that at all. And it's harder and harder, I think, because you don't see those. I learned a lot from films when I was growing up, but the stuff on TV and films, I don't think they show creditable people at all.
No, I agree.
Or it's according to what I like. So to have you go in and say things, and I think that's all the good. I try to teach everybody who's younger than me, really younger than me, about be solution-oriented.
Good point.
And it doesn't matter if it's your job or not, solve the problem, get it done. I mean, ethically and legally, but be that kind of person that takes it on.
Absolutely.
You'll feel better when the job's done.
Absolutely.
You can't complain after that.
That's right.
Anyway, I want to thank you for being with me today. I
Thank you.
really enjoyed it, and I certainly have I almost want to say a prayer to all of you who are in global security for the kinds of things that you have to contend with on a daily basis that I know zero about. Thank God. Well, not thank God. I really didn't mean it like that.
Sure.
But at least there's creditable people taking a serious look at that. And the other thing that I really like is a portion of your life is dedicated to teaching how to be a good American. We have a great country. We have a lot of people bad-mouthing it right now. But we will come back, and it starts with confidence, and it starts with responsibility. I'm lecturing now. I don't mean to do that. But I have been thinking a lot. It isn't good for leaders to be depressed or to be negative. They really have to say, whatever the problems are, here's the problems, let's move it. And I think you're one of those people, which makes me very happy. And you're brilliant in telling people what to do in terms of getting, what I want to say, multiple disciplines while they're young under their belt. So thank you.
Thank you, Junia. It's been a pleasure.
To contact Junia, send her an email at info@juniadone.com. For more information, program schedules, and news about future guests, go to www.juniadone.com. Thanks for joining us. See you next time for Uncommon Sense with Junia Doan.
Local productions on QTV are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.